Hello, I'm retired Army Master Sergeant Marina Libro, and tonight I'm going to be reading the story of Chinamans Hat. I've been retired from the Army now since 2011, and when I was in the Army I drove boats for a living, and that made me an Army watercraft operator. And when I wasn't driving boats for the Army, in my civilian job, when I finished up with the Army, I was a police officer. Here in Virginia, I worked for the state of Virginia as a Virginia Marine police officer, which meant that I, once again, drove boats for a living. So you can see why I picked this story. And this story is about how the island of Chinamans Hat came into being. This little guy here, his name is Soldier, and we got him on Veterans Day a couple years ago, and he sits a little funny sometimes because he has a bum leg, but he gets around great and he fits into our household. So we're going to get going, and sometimes you may see me have to read by using my finger because at times the words will jump around because my eye gets a little funky tonight, but we're going to drive on because that's what we do. Alright, here we go. The story of Chinamans Hat. Are you ready, soldier? In the sunny Chinese village of Xin Highway lived a boy named Lickbean and the girl named Mei Mei. They were very good friends. Xin Highway was famous for its hats made of bamboo, and Mei Mei learned the art of hat making when she was very young. She practiced and practiced making hat after hat until she finally made one that was equal to the finest hats in China. This hat she gave to her friend Lickbean. Lickbean loved the hat made by Mei Mei. Though he was smaller than the other boys his age, wearing his special hat made him feel tall and proud. As they grew older, other boys wanted Mei Mei's friendship, and they tried to impress her by showing off. Some of the boys did tricks and tumbles, which Lickbean knew he could never do. Mei Mei giggled as one of the boys walked on his hands and knew he could never, walked on his hands to entertain her. Lickbean crept away sadly. He had never felt so small and weak. As Lickbean wandered slowly through the market, he saw the Fong family herb shop. He knew that herbs could make you well if you were sick, and today Lickbean felt sick and sad. Maybe, he thought, Mr. Fong will have an herb to make me feel happy. Happy herbs? laughed Mr. Fong. No, but I could tell you a few jokes. He told jokes, but Lickbean didn't even smile. Your face is making me sad, said Mr. Fong. What makes a young man so unhappy he doesn't even laugh at my jokes? Lickbean told him the story about the bigger boys. If I could just grow some and be stronger, I could walk on my hands and make Mei Mei laugh too. I think you're liking this story, soldier. Well, if your size is the problem, maybe I do have something for you, said Mr. Fong. As he took a box from the shelves, Mr. Fong said, the powder in this box is made from the ground-up roots of a giant tree from a faraway land. The trees are almost as tall as the mountains. Just a little of this powder, made into a tea, will make you grow. Mr. Fong gave Lickbean the whole box. Be careful not to drink too much at once, Mr. Fong cautioned. Lickbean practically flew home. Now he would grow, he thought. It's magic tea, Mom. Can you make me some? Well, "I think your father should look at the team first," said his mother. But Lickbean, he didn't listen to his mother, and he didn't listen to Mr. Fong either. As he poured all the powder into a cup and ladled some water over the brown dust. It looked like mud, but Lickbean, he held his nose and gulped it down. In a moment, his body began to feel different. It seemed like his clothes were shrinking. They got tighter and tighter. Lickbean was growing taller and taller so fast he screamed, "No!" He didn't want to be this big, and yet the next moment he was bigger still. He grew and grew and grew. Lickbean was bigger, was so scared, he wished he had listened to his mother and Mr. Fong. How could he walk on his hands to impress Maymay with such long legs to hold up the air? Now he was not just a very skinny person, but a giant skinny person. And he ripped his pants right to shreds, he grew so big. Would Maymay laugh or scream if she saw me, Lickbean wondered, as he jumped over some small hills. Lickbean could now walk over mountains in just a few giant steps. Before he knew it, he was miles away from his village, his home, and his friend Maymay. What do you think? At the thought of Maymay, Lickbean reached for his favorite hat. Oh, how small it was. He was glad he had not lost Maymay's gift to him. Then he found something else. Some long black hairs coming from his chin. He had a beard. Was he becoming as big and as old as the tree from which the tea powder had come? Now a beard, he laughed. Maymay would giggle if she could see this. Look at that long beard. You have black hair, but you don't have a beard, do you? You have whiskers. Holding his tiny hat in one hand and pulling on his new beard with the other, Lickbean had an idea. He threaded one of the long black hairs through his hat and secured it with a knot. Now he couldn't lose it. Lickbean ran and jumped in the ocean. He quickly swam out where the water was deep and black. Suddenly, feeling sleepy, he closed his eyes and was asleep in a moment. As Lickbean slept, he was carried away by another giant, a giant ocean current. His body floated like a huge ship. Tied to his beard, his cherished hat bobbed over the waves like a child's toy. All through the night, Lickbean's sleeping body moved swiftly through the South China Sea and into the Pacific Ocean. Powerful tides swept him along on racing waves, and morning found him off a beach in the Hawaiian Islands, very, very far from his home. Here's his little hat tied to his beard. Whoopsie. When he stood up, Lickbean saw many small brown people looking at him with wide eyes and open mouths. He explained who he was and how he had grown so big, and the people began to smile. Lickbean wished he had a gift to show his friendship, but the only thing he had brought with him was his hat. Maymay had made it and given it to him, so it was his favorite thing. But Lickbean knew that giving away your favorite thing is a priceless gift. That's what Maymay had done when she gave him her finest hat. So Lickbean made a difficult decision. He untied his hat and placed it on the king's head. The king was very pleased. All the people began to dance and sing as drums beat a happy rhythm. There's his hat on the king's head. The Hawaiian king wanted to give Lickbean a very special gift in return. The giant should have a giant hat like the one he gave me, he thought. So he put his weavers to work on a giant Chinaman's hat for Lickbean to wear. At the same time, carvers worked on a giant koa wood bowl for Lickbean to eat out of. Lickbean was so happy as he put the giant hat on his head. Maymay would be proud, he thought. After he had eaten, Lickbean felt strange. He was so tired. Then, as if in slow motion, he sank below the water. First his big old body, then his long gray beard, and finally his head disappeared beneath the surface. The only thing left to see was his new giant hat that now looked like a new little island. Yes, the magic tea had put Lickbean to sleep. His sleep was so deep he didn't need to breathe for a very long time as he lay beneath the surface. The Hawaiian people's hearts were broken. They thought their new friend must be dead. Many weeks passed, and the people continued to mourn for the giant who had come out of the sea. They looked out at the giant hat sitting in the bay, but there was no movement. All was still and sad. Then one day, the people saw a fountain of water erupt near the island hat, like a big bubble bursting. And something popped out of the water. The Hawaiians jumped into their canoes and paddled out to meet a lonely swimmer. When they brought him back to shore, the people gathered around with great curiosity. "I guess you used to know me as a giant," said the boy. "The magic tea has lost its powder. I am Lickbean." The Hawaiians were overjoyed to see the real Lickbean. Not long after this magical day, a Chinese boat was seen in the bay. It sailed right past Lickbean's fern-covered hat. And who do you think came off the boat right behind the captain? It was Mr. Fong, who had given Lickbean the magic tea. Mr. Fong was so surprised to see his little friend. "What are you doing in Hawaii?" Lickbean and Mr. Fong asked each other at the same time. "I'll tell you how I got here on our way back home, if you will let me come with you," said Lickbean. Mr. Fong laughed and said, "We are on our way back to China now. I've sailed with this ship all over the world, collected herbs, even more powder from the giant trees." A few days later, the Chinese ship was ready to set sail. Regretfully, Lickbean said goodbye to the islanders and thanked them for their kindness and generosity. As the ship left the bay, it sailed past a giant island hat. Lickbean couldn't believe that huge island once sat on top of his head. "Life is filled with amazing and wonderful things," he thought. As he thought this, he jumped up and walked on his hands, just like the bigger boys back home. Look at that. When Lickbean arrived back home, he was so excited to see his friend Maymay. "Where have you been, Lickbean?" asked Maymay. "I've been learning to walk on my hands," said Lickbean. Maymay thought that Lickbean looked taller and stronger, but his size wasn't important. She was just happy to see her friend again, safe and sound. Of course, she had a gift for him, her newest and best bamboo hat. "I'm so happy to have a new hat," said Lickbeam. "I left 2 very special hats in Hawaii." Well, Lickbeam had a story to tell Maymay that she probably wouldn't believe, but people who see the Chinamans Hat Island in the Hawaiian Bay can see for themselves the evidence of Lickbeam's visit to Hawaii. They say his giant spirit still rests beneath the island hat and plays with the whales. The end. And if you look right here, this is what Chinaman Hat really looks like. It's just off of Oahu and sits right there. And we've actually had a chance to swim out there and kayak around that island. And that's what makes it so special to me. So I would like to say, I hope you enjoyed the story of Chinaman's Hat. Thanks for listening and being a part of Hero Stories. We'd like to invite you to please tune in next Monday for a new hero story video. And remember, if your family would like to, that's backwards, don't I? If your family would like to support Infinite Hero Foundation, there are 2 ways that you can do that. You can either text Hero Stories, that's one word, to 76278, or you can visit infinitehero.org. Again, thanks for tuning in and hope to see you next Monday. Good night.